I used to have several sites. Now I kind of like the grower's edge. It gives me that cash max. You can tell it which markets you're looking for, and it will tell you what your highest net back is based on the price they're paying at that time and the basis that they're paying. And that's pretty handy because I don't have to go to so many different sites.
Good afternoon, welcome to GrainTV. My name is Cody Bills. Today is the 26th. It's a Thursday, which means we had export sales out this morning. Let's turn over to the grain hedge trading platform and see where we closed off the day. Corn futures trading down 4 cents, soybeans down 4 1/4 cents, and wheat in Chicago leading the downside, down 20.5 cents here on the day. Let's take a look here at export sales and see where we came out. Corn came out with 435,000 metric tons. Analysts were expecting anywhere between 400 to 600,000 metric tons. This was disappointing. It was down 13% week over week. So overall, this was not a very positive week here for corn, but we didn't miss analysts' expectations, and it wasn't terrible. We're still running well ahead of pace to meet USDA expectations. Right now, we've booked 37 million metric tons compared to last year when we had about 40.3 million metric tons, and the expected pace that we need to meet USDA expectations of 34.7. So we need to be around 34.7. Right now we're at 37 million metric tons. We're still ahead of pace to meet USDA expectations. So this wasn't disappointing here for corn, but it would be nice to see a pickup here in sales to get a bid back under the corn market. When you look at the price action here for corn, you'll notice we kind of got up right around that 100-day moving average, hit some resistance, and started selling off from there. In the end, we ended up kind of bouncing around in a range and closing toward the center of that range. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we see a little bit more selling pressure. Let's take a look now at the soybean sales. This is what's very fascinating. Up to 505,000 metric tons sold this week. Analysts were expecting between 100 to 300,000 metric tons. This was an increase of 48% week over week. Now, this wasn't all China. It was Indonesia, China, Germany, Netherlands, all making big purchases this week, totaling up to 505,000 metric tons that we had sold this week. Take a look at the overall export sales this year. We've booked 48.5 million metric tons. We need, this is the green line. The green line is what we need to meet USDA expectations, taking into account seasonality. We need 43.9 million metric tons sold at this time. So we're way ahead of where we need to be. We're way ahead of where we were last year, which is the blue line, and that would be around 44.4 million metric tons. So the bottom line here for soybeans is that this was a very big sale again this week. When you look at this overall, we're well ahead of pace to meet USDA expectations. We would expect to see a curb, especially with the fact that Brazil is 61% completed with soybean harvest. But we haven't seen any sort of tapering in the export sales, which to me seems like a pretty supportive story for soybeans going forward. Of course, technically, we talked about this yesterday. We have moving averages that are converging right on each other overhead that seems to offer some technical resistance and kind of caps off what soybeans is really able to do. When you look at wheat, this was the big story of the day. Wheat came in on the low side of analyst expectations, down 74% week over week. Analysts were expecting anywhere from 200 to 400,000 metric tons. We only sold 102,000 metric tons this week, so that was very disappointing. When you look at the overall sales pace for wheat here, you'll notice that this week didn't help anything, but for the most part, we're on pace to meet USDA expectations. We have not fallen below that green line. You'll notice right now we've booked 21.8 million metric tons versus this time last year when we were making a lot more sales of 28.6 million metric tons, and the pace that we need to meet USDA expectations of 21.2. So we are ahead of that 21.2, having booked 21.8 million metric tons at this point throughout the marketing year. Let's talk a little bit about the charts here. Take a look at wheat. You'll notice we got up there around that resistance level that was set back in the middle part of February. We touched on that. It seemed like early on in this week we got crop conditions report. What we saw out of those crop conditions is that there was an improvement in the overall good to excellent ratings for 2 of the major producing HRW states. Bottom line here, that seemed to take the wind out of this short covering rally, and we started moving lower here. It looks as though there could be some precipitation in the forecast, and that combined with very, very weak export sales, I think is one of the main contributors here to this negative day in the markets. When you look at soybeans here, that's the one last one I want to take a look at. You'll notice that, like we just talked about, the 50-day, the 20-day moving average, very close together. I would suspect that we'd try and make another attempt. It almost has that feeling here. We didn't turn around. We didn't sell off sharply. Today we had nice new crop export sales, a reportable sale of 280,000 metric tons to unknown destinations for the 15-16 marketing year. The export sales today were positive, and that was what I think kept us from starting that selling move. Oftentimes on Fridays we get these kind of contradicting moves to the week's action, and I wouldn't be surprised if we go up and retest that 20-day moving average. We'll have to see, of course, because overall, when you look at the fundamentals, I think in the long run, in a month from now, we will probably be lower than where we are today simply because of the overall supply that's going to be hitting the market. Brazil has a record production out of there. Argentina crop looks very good. We did see AgriConsult increase their overall soybean production estimates in Brazil. I think that's going to likely weigh on the markets. But of course, on Tuesday, this next week, that's going to be the main driver of the market. Right now, we're kind of technically bouncing around. We did pay attention to export sales here today. But really on Tuesday, we're going to get quarterly grain stocks. We're also going to get prospective plantings. Those are both incredibly important reports, and typically we see large market moves following that increased volatility. So please do pay attention to that. We'll be talking on Friday about expectations for that planting intentions report as well as the quarterly grain stocks. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, give us a call. Number's 877-472-4607.